Most destructive situations reveal themselves long before collapse arrives, through repeated contradictions, behavioral patterns, incentives that quietly replace honesty. This channel investigates the structures people often recognize emotionally but struggle to explain clearly, because understanding patterns early can save years of confusion, manipulation, and unnecessary damage. People like to believe that corruption begins with evil people, but history shows something much more uncomfortable. Most destructive systems are not built by monsters, they are built by ordinary people, slowly adapting to environments that reward dishonesty. And this pattern repeats everywhere: banks, governments, corporations, relationships, entire civilizations. The real danger is not evil itself. The real danger is normalization, because humans can normalize almost anything if survival, status, or belonging depends on it. Look at nature. Nature is brutally honest about consequences. If a parasite consumes too much, the host weakens. If cancer cells multiply without limits, the organism collapses. Nature never negotiates with reality, it only measures outcomes. And human systems are not separate from these laws. They only pretend to be. That's why false systems often appear powerful before collapse. Because unsustainable systems can survive for long periods of time, sometimes years, sometimes generations, and when consequences are delayed, people begin confusing delay with performance. That is where civilizations become dangerous to themselves. Take Bank Monte de Paschi in Siena, one of the oldest banks in human history, centuries of influence, prestige, institutional trust, and still, the same human patterns emerge. Hidden risks, financial illusions, short-term survival, because age does not protect the system from reality. Nothing does. Or look at Parex Bank. Different country, different era, same psychology, rapid expansion, easy confidence, collective optimism. And the dangerous belief that growth itself proves stability, but humans often confuse momentum with health. And once enough people participate in the illusion starts feeling normal. That is how false systems survive, not because everybody believes them completely, but because questioning them becomes psychologically expensive. People fear loss of status, loss of security, loss of identity, loss of belonging. They slowly adapt themselves to survive inside them. This doesn't only happen in banking. You can see the exact same structures in business partnerships, politics, media, institutions, social circles, and personal relationships. Repeated contradictions. Words separating from actions. Appearance is becoming more important than truth. That's what interests me most. Even when humans pretend not to look, outcomes leave traces early. Most people simply ignore those traces, and humans are deeply resistant to painful truth. Maybe the most dangerous systems are not openly corrupt systems, but systems where everybody silently agrees not to question what they already know. Because once truth threatens identity, people begin protecting illusions more aggressively than reality itself. History repeats this endlessly. Empires, financial systems, political systems, even personal lives. And this is why I believe nature always wins in the end. Not because nature is moral, but because reality eventually exposes what cannot sustain itself. Artificial structures can survive for long periods of time, but contradictions accumulate silently, stress accumulates silently, debt accumulates silently, until eventually collapse stops being avoidable. And suddenly people act surprised by outcomes that were visible from the very beginning. That is why I started InfoHorn's investigations, not to create internet drama, but to investigate a hidden structure beneath visible events. The behavioral patterns people ignore until consequences become unavoidable, because reality leaves traces long before collapse arrives. Always. Most people today are not searching for entertainment anymore. They want to understand why certain patterns repeat, why relationships collapse, why some outcomes feel predictable long before they happen, even when struggle to explain. So this channel will investigate these structures. financial systems, psychological systems, institutional systems, human behavior under pressure, and the repeated ways people adapt themselves. And if there's a situation in your life, business, relationships, or environment where repeated contradictions no longer make sense, where patterns continue repeating beneath the surface, you can describe the situation through the context below. Because long before systems collapse publicly, their structure usually reveals itself privately. And sometimes an outside perspective can identify dynamics that people inside the situation can no longer see clearly. Reality keeps records.